Hey, everybody. So, listen, can you hear it? Okay, so episode or the first podcast of December was not recorded. So you're here in the middle of the month because December 1st was not recorded. You can hear in my throat that I've been going through some stuff. uh a lot has happened, and this is the recap, right? Even though technically our fiscal year runs with the fiscal year of the DoD, every year I have done an end of the year recap, and this year is no different. 2024 is going to look a lot different for those YouTubers that watch my episodes, those who want to see my face and not just hear my voice. I've been told that I have a lovely voice. I've been told, right? Crazy thing is, I never listen to myself. I am one of the, like many people, that don't like the sound of their own voice. Like when I listen to my voicemails on other people's phones or when people play stuff back to me, I'm like, ugh. Even when I post on Instagram, it is, or social media, I'm like, do I sound like that? Anywho, I'm glad you're here. I'm glad to see the end of 2023. This episode is for sure going to be emotional for me because there has been so much going on in 2024. I mean, 2023 for me. So much has happened. And we're going to go through this roller coaster. So buckle up. I'm going to ask that you keep your hands and feet in this vehicle at all times while we go on this ride. If you have any loose articles, sunglasses, or loose limbs, I advise you to secure your items right now. Those of you that suffer from any kind of condition or uh, heart problems may want to seek the advice of your doctors before you go on this ride with me, because it is, yeah, I'm taking my time with this episode like I've never done before. And I wrote down notes. I got my notes right here. I got my glasses. I'm prepared to talk about certain things. And yet I'm struggling a little bit right now because I know if I start at the top, that's where the waterworks are going to start. And I can feel it right now. I can feel it in my throat welling up. So let's just get into it. The beginning of the year was one of the worst experiences that I've ever had in my life. And for the first time saying it out loud to those outside of my circle, I am not going to go into detail. Just understand that first. I'm not going to go into detail. I witnessed the violence. I witnessed a young person losing their life in front of me, just on the other side of this wall where I am right now. And never, I don't think anyone, and I've, like so many people who have access to the news and the media, you watch it happen to other people and you think to yourself, oh my God, I can't imagine, or I don't know what I would do, or if I was in that situation, this is what I do. And here's the thing about fight or flight. Here's the thing about violence and being in situations you just don't know what your body's going to do, where your mind is going to go. I never saw myself as a person running towards violence to help anybody, because in my head and the conversations I have with people that I know, we hear bullets, we run away. And for some reason, I ran too. I don't regret what I did. but it will be with me for the rest of my life. And that is how I started 2023. Praying for it to be better because it was the top of the year. I mean, the very first month. Ooh. And so I needed to shift my focus. And those of you who are not new to this podcast know that I rely heavily on my faith to get me through a lot of things. And even then, I questioned what in the world? Why in the world? Why me? Why now? Why this? Everything else, right? So we're going to go through some loops, some ups and downs in this recap this year. Uh, yeah, some loop de loops, some highs, some lows. We might even go into that was our first dark tunnel. So come on out of it with me, right? Excuse me. And at the same time, I had Last Soldier that I needed to focus on, right? Where can I put my efforts? Where can I shift my focus? And so the great thing is we started doing our workshops this year, and I got to do a few incredible ones. So my favorites, let me put my glasses on so I look smart, right? Some of my favorites were the trauma and taco workshop that we did, where we talked about um, culturally how we handle trauma, and I got to collab with SOS and my other good friend Dee down in, I want to say she's in Virginia, um, and her work with the Latino community. Amazing workshop. We got to give away some Chipotle, some tacos, and talk about our experience as women veterans going through what we were going through. I did the ice cream you scream where we talked about PTSD and we gave away ice cream, Baskin Robbins gift cards, and I was so happy with that turnout. I mean, I loved the theme around the food and it was amazing. And I got to meet some incredible women. And I have one supporter from Chicago, one veteran from Chicago, Navy veteran. Shout out to her. I'm not going to name her by name, but she came consistently to the workshops and I appreciated that. And it gave me the boost that I needed. Just this, and I'm not saying that everyone else that didn't show up didn't give me the boost that I need, but I was so incredibly grateful for her consistency and her kind words and her showing up for herself every month. And so we were able to do that for a couple of months, and I loved it, and I am ready to bring it back. However, comma, on the other side of that, are y'all ready for ooh, let's go down. We were targeted at some point because we only opened this up to 10 women. I was selling out incredibly fast in the last two webinars. And not that that's not a great thing. 10 slots is not a lot of slots, right? But for the most part, we were having like 6 or 7 people show up at the webinars, but I was selling out for the last like 2 or 3 incredibly fast, like within an hour. And I'm like, am I that good? So the first one was interesting because the people that showed up never turned their camera on. And I wound up in a room with my intern with some people with 1 or 2 that had their cameras on. The rest of them didn't. And not only did they not turn their cameras on, they didn't even speak. So there's no interaction, which made this incredibly awkward. And I'm like, what is going on? So I'm regrouping, I'm going back. I'm doing the iterative process of what did we do wrong? What's going on? And I'm thinking, you know, why would someone purposely do that to us? And so my mind went on a hamster wheel. Never mind the roller coaster. I got off the ride because I'm like, what is happening here? Immediately, I'm like, I did something wrong, or someone's coming after us because we're only focusing on veterans, or we're only focusing on women veterans, or something like that. And then it happened again. And this time we were like, no, we're going to make it a requirement that you have to have your camera on. And sure enough, people came, and I could immediately tell that they were not women veterans and they didn't serve. We allowed them to stay though, with the intent of, I'm going to try to figure this out. And so the very next webinar, I realized when they didn't get their gift cards that we were being targeted because someone wanted a gift card. And so we had to stop the workshops until we can figure out how to verify. It's I when I tell you, to my core, it pissed me off to no end. Not not in a surprising way that people would willingly come after an organization so that they can get free stuff, but it just pissed me off that I didn't catch it. It made me mad that um I didn't see it happening the first time. And then there was no real way for me to do it. Like, now I have to question people's service. Do you know how incredibly freaking frustrating it is for me to have served and people still question it? Like, even going out with my father, I can have the hat on, I can have a button, I can have the American flag in my hand, and still there were people that won't say thank you for your service or even recognize me as a veteran. And for me and my organization to have to ask someone to prove that they're a veteran, yeah, no, I don't like it. I don't like it at all. So for me, my answer was, we're just not going to do the workshops right now until we can figure out a way to verify. So we did our work with trying to contact ID Me, and anyone who served knows that ID Me is one of the platforms that a lot of businesses, big name businesses like Foot Locker and Home Depot, I think, or Lowe's, uses to verify a veteran service. There's no platform for small organizations like myself or nonprofits to be able to do that. And we need it because this needs to be a safe space. And I'm going to bring it back. But I want to make it absolutely clear. If you show up to an event of mine or you come in my webinar and I figure out that you're not a veteran, I am going to blast you. I am no longer going to be quiet about that because you took away space and time and resources from someone who really who could have used that. So come for me and I'm coming for you. Bottom line up front. All right. So we went down. Time to come back up. So the reason why I started the podcast up again is because I was asked to sit on an advisory board of this incredible organization called Protect Us Kids, and they focus on child sex trafficking over the internet. And I was excited that one of their board members, all the way in Australia, was like, I love your podcast. What is going on? I'm going to start a petition for you to come back on. And so it gave me the jolt. Here we go. The jolt for me to get back into recording the podcast. Oh. And so for the last couple of months, I have tried. I have tried while wrangling and dealing with a lot of traveling. So there goes that, let's go back up, right? Hands in the air. Whee! Right, we're going up. Or do you put your hands in the air when you're going down? I think you put your hands in the air when you're going down, right? I don't think you put your hands in the air when you're going up. Anyway, traveling. I got to go to some incredible places here in the US, and I got to travel abroad. I talked about it briefly, my trip to Korea. It was amazing to share that experience with my daughter, to share that experience with and touch a group of people soldiers that are over there, because some people stay over there for a really long time, and some of them immediately go into that being their first duty assignment. So that was an incredible uh, comeback from having to deal with that. Just the traveling this year, the speaking engagements, being able to get my story out there, a definite high for me. And then here we go. So again, put your hands in the air. We're going down. Uh, grief, grief and loss, not always around death. Although I miss my mother tremendously, being here with my father. I think I talk about my mom enough for people to know. And if you're not and you're new here, welcome. My mom passed the day before Thanksgiving in 2021. What I grieved over this year was the end of my marriage, which wasn't public for a very good reason. Most of what I try to keep my platform for is Glass Soldier and the uplifting and the support and the safe space for survivors. Grief is a part of every process, and I never wanted something this personal to be a part of my story, but here it is, and it is. My marriage ended. And for over a year, there was an emotional roller coaster of this loss, the in and out of bitterness, anger, acceptance. Um, yeah, there was three steps for me with this. I was either bitter, I was angry, or I was like, fine, fine, we're doing this. But there was much more to it, and it was it was more complex than I anticipated. I thought for sure that if we were cordial and we remained friends, it would make it easier. It did not. And I'm not going to sit up here and lie to anybody. Kudos to people that remain cordial and friends with their exes. And let me be 100% clear. I'm not angry any longer at my ex. I don't hold any bitter feelings towards my ex. But I grieve the loss of the relationship where there once was a space, and my my position in his life as his wife is no longer there. And so there is a hole, and there was a wound that I needed to tend to. And for over a year, it felt like the cordialness was the band-aid, that I wasn't dealing with the hurt. And I kept telling myself, as long as we're friendly, it's okay. As long as we can remain friends and we can support each other and we can be in and out of each other's lives, then it's okay. But it's not, because those were not healthy boundaries for me. And I don't compartmentalize like that. I'm not even going to sit up here and pretend that just because I have letters behind my name, that navigating grief and the loss of a relationship or a life is easier for me than any other person. It's not. It's not. And I would challenge any therapist or any psychologist out there to sit there and say that just because you do something means that you are better at it than anyone else. Lies. I don't think that any cancer doctor who got a diagnosis of cancer would sit there and tell you that they don't go through the process any different than a cancer patient who's not a doctor. Just because you understand science and medicine doesn't make what happens to you personally any different than anyone else. I put my pants on one leg at a time like anyone else. And so it was the loss of that relationship and then the loss of my animals, my cats. And then you're like, what? You see that coming? I loved my fur babies, Cain and Abel, and having pets. Uh, there are people out here that don't like animals. So am I getting emotional? It it's my kids and the I don't want anybody but like, oh my gosh, she's crying over cats, right? But my babies, my human babies, are adults and don't live with me. But my cats were comforting to me because if I could count on anything, it would it was the comfort of this animal that depended on me, that unapologetically gave me affection. And he took that. And so, whew, that created a rift in the grieving process for me and my children, who I could not keep from feeling what they felt. And for them, that right there was like, forget him. Like any hope of reconciliation went out the door for my daughter when that happened, when he took them from her. Because in her opinion, it was unnecessary. She was willing and able to care for them. And um, I feel like I let her down and betrayed her in convincing her to just allow it to happen, just for the sake of me moving forward, not realizing that it wasn't just happening to me, it was also happening to them. So there's that. Now, that being said, let's go up, right? I don't know even know where we are in the year, October. All this stuff, a lot of stuff is happening. But that was October, so that brings us to this like last quarter year. I'm excited. I'm ready to have my ugly sweater Christmas fundraiser. So online we did this fundraising, got sponsors. I'm like, yes, let's end at Glass Soldier with a bang and an ugly sweater Christmas party fundraiser. The idea wasn't new to me when I was active duty and at Fort Hood slash Cavazos. I feel like I have to keep saying that for a while. It's the same thing with Twitter now, X. People have to kind of put that disclaimer out there so everyone knows what you're talking about. While I was stationed there in Texas, I had a fundraiser with a local shelter that I had volunteered with. Unbeknownst to anyone, I didn't tell anyone. A lot of times in my volunteer work, I did not publish or tell anybody about, because it was just deeply personal to me and helped me through my process. Either way, I had an ugly sweater fundraiser at my house because I wanted to do something for the shelter. And what I found out in volunteering with them is that people always give canned goods at the end of the year, right? Everybody goes through their cabinet, finds the stuff that they didn't eat or they bought and thought they were going to try and is about to expire. So they go and donate it to the shelters because, you know, beggars can't be choosy. So I'm going to give them this can of beans or this succotash that I didn't want. And because they don't have anything else, that's what they want. Stop buying nasty stuff and giving it to people in the shelter. They don't want nasty food either. Anyway, I'm just saying, give away the good stuff because you can get it again. So the shelter had a bunch of canned stuff, and I was like, wait, what are they supposed to eat with all this macaroni and cheese and beans that people keep giving them? So I challenged my friends to bring a pound of meat. This is obviously pre pandemic, but I wanted to fill their deep freezer, which they had full of meat. This was also prior to me going plant based. And so everyone bought over like chicken and hamburger, and it was awesome. I loved it. I don't think anybody bought any steak. I think somebody might have bought a roast or something like that. But it was incredible and amazing, and it inspired me. And so I want to keep that tradition going. Obviously, this year it is a little bit different. So I kind of spun it, but I wanted to give back to my veteran community and I wanted to help another shelter. And so the goal was to raise enough funds to have a silent auction, to have vendors, especially veteran owned businesses, come and vend and sell their things during the Christmas holiday right before Christmas. Yay, put your hands in the air because we're going down. I had to cancel. I've been in Jersey for a year. I didn't build the relationships or the following. And so ticket sales did not take off the way that I wanted to, and I had to cancel our fundraiser, postpone our fundraiser. I am still going to have an event. I'm going to plan better, regroup, like I always do. Like I always do. I looked at it as a failure at first, and understanding that failure is a part of life. But this wasn't a failure. This was simply an opportunity for me to build relationships, something that I learned this year is difficult for me. Let me explain. Networking and asking for money triggered me this year and triggered something in my mind this year that I connected for the first time with my life of survivalhood. It is it is incredibly difficult for me to ask for anything. Ask for help, ask for money for sure, support. I tried to do this on an island when we started 3 years ago. And when my mom passed the following year, everything went down. You would have thought that I learned my lesson that I am not an island and I can't do this by myself. And so 2022 came around. I'm like, but yeah, do something different. I brought people in. If you listen to the podcast last year, I had co-host. I was like, yes, I want people and I want a team and I want to build something great. And again, I found myself by myself, an island, and the attitude of you can't depend on anybody. But my focus shifting, and am I even prepared for what I'm asking for? So, what triggered me with networking was no means no. I teach people about consent, it's important. Open communication, making your needs, your desires, and um, even the things that you don't want known early. Networking and asking for help feels like no means no. When someone tells me no, okay. I'm 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 probably not going to circle back around to you. Feel it welling up. Like I'm ready to cry. And so it I found it hard to be in spaces and networking with people because I didn't want to push. I don't like to be pushed. I don't like when people question my no. I don't like to be hassled. I've never been rude to customer service people that call solicitors, 'cause I've been on the other end of that. But I don't like to be pushed. And I needed to figure out how. How do I get the needs of my community, the survivors, the people that need these resources? How do I get to the other side of getting what they need if I don't push past my comfort zone? And so that's what this end of the year recap and lessons learned for me is that 2024, not only have I set clearer boundaries for those in my life, I don't want discipline to feel like sacrifice. I'm not interested any longer in hearing a no, but what can you do for me? And so rather than taking it as rejection, I'm just going to find a way to get their needs, my needs met. So, for anybody listening, if I come to you and ask you, can you help me with this? And you tell me no, I'm probably going to come back and say, what can you do then? Because that's where I am. What can you do? What can I do? I have so many exciting things coming up in 2024. Please stay tuned. Please continue to support myself and other organizations that are doing this incredible work to help people navigate through the hurt space. I thank you guys so much for your time and the encouragement to keep doing this. Because I know on the other side, like, I cannot wait to hold the galas, to have the ugly sweater fundraisers, to do the collaborative workshops, to create these safe spaces, the resources, the team. So stay tuned. I'll put my glasses back on so I can look smart again. Stay tuned to what Glass Soldier is doing. Thank you for your time. I always end it with it's a finite resource and I cannot give it back to you. 2023 is nearly over. And you and I have survived 100% of all the rides. I appreciate you going on this ride with me. You can now exit the roller coaster, fix your hair, fix your life, and let's go to 2024 doing some more amazing things. I will see you guys on the other side of 2024. Do good, be good.